Hello, YouTube friends. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. I know it's been a while, but in this particular video, I wanted to take you on a journey with me to the city of Busan. All right, so to give you perspective, I'm going to pull up Google Earth here and kind of show you where Busan is here on Google Earth map. And as you can see, it is a port city. In fact, Busan is the second largest city in Korea with a population of over 3.5 million people. So here we are getting ready for our trip to Busan. Why did we travel to Busan in the first place? Even though I'm residing in Seoul during my tenure here in Korea, I was actually born in Busan. When I made my first pilgrimage back to Korea in 1996, I was informed by my adoption agency Holt International that they had the actual address where I was found. Unfortunately, I was unable to attempt to visit the location. For the last 22 years, I have waited for this moment to return to my birth city. My mission was clear. It was to find this location. After a short 2.5-hour ride, here we are arriving to the birth city of Busan. I could sense the anticipation building up inside of me as we finally arrived 22 years later. So here we are in Busan, and I thought it was going to be a very simple phone call. We're going to make a phone call, find out if they had my records, but we ran into all these weird obstacles. The orphanage that supposedly was there back in 1996 and of course back in 1973 was no longer at the same location. No one really understood what we were talking about. I was hoping that we were able to locate the adoption file that I had seen way back in 1996, but people were saying that they don't know what we're talking about. They don't know what orphanage, that particular location now closed down. And so it was very stressful. But after a few days of my wife just being really persistent and very diligent, she was finally able to get a hold of the orphanage. It's now in a different location, and they were able to let her know that they would need to research my name and get back with her. So we kind of waited for a while, and we're wondering, man, I hope that after all these different closures, they were able to retain the file. I think a day later, they contacted my wife and said, hey, we're able to locate the file. If you want to come on over sometime today, you can. So we set up an appointment, headed over there in the afternoon. I think it was around 3 o'clock. We get there and we sit down with one of the orphanage directors, and they pulled out my actual file that they created back in 1973. Now, I had seen this 22 years ago, but it was only 2 pieces of paper. And back then in 1996, we didn't have cell phones and cameras easily accessible. So I was actually able to see again for the second time in my life a baby picture. I'm going to post that right up here. So that's a baby picture of me. Bear in mind, I know for the vast majority of you, you've seen plenty of baby pictures of yourself and you're kind of bored with it. But being an orphan and only seeing the toddler pictures of the 4 toddler pictures that I showed in one of my previous episodes, I'd never really gotten to see myself as a baby except once earlier back in 1996. So I finally took that snapshot of me as a baby, and it was pretty cool. Also, in addition to that, they were able to locate the address of where I was dropped off. Additional information was kind of cool. They shared that in the file that was written down in Korean, it said that I was found around 9 p.m. I was taken to the police, and they estimated that I was about 5 days old. So they give us the address, and lo and behold, this address is an old address created way back in the 1970s, and this address no longer exists today. So what we had to do is we had to go over to like the local courthouse of the area, the region, to see if they could give us the old address equivalent of today. With a lot of additional help of my wife, we were actually able to locate the new address equivalent. Turns out it was way up on a big hill, so I'm going to take you on that journey now with some B-roll video. Having obtained the address, we began to realize that our journey would be going upwards. Little did I realize that I must have been born way up here on the mountaintop. As I look back at my life, I've always been attracted to the mountains, so it was really interesting to find out that I must have been born in a neighborhood up in the mountains. The journey upward has now ended, and here I find myself walking in the very footsteps that my birth mother must have walked as she brought me on a day very much like this, October 19th, 1973. The building you see here was the actual site where my birth mother or parents dropped me off. It was one of the only public places a baby could be found. We would find out that this was and is a Buddhist temple. We ran into one of the monks and he asked why we were visiting. We told him my story. Now, he was born in 1943 and he actually was one of the monks here when I was dropped off. He said back in the early 1970s, poor or young women would drop off their babies knowing the monks would ensure the baby got to an orphanage. There were several buildings when we arrived last week, but he had confirmed that this was the only building built at that time, and it was these very steps that I'm sitting at right here in the video that I was found. It's hard to explain the emotion and the feeling that arose in my heart and in my mind as I sat there and realized that I had truly come full circle, that this was the very location that I had started this journey in life. As I sat there, it just dawned on me that it took 45 years to come back to the very place where life had nearly begun. It was highly likely that my parents or mom was living in this area. She surely would not have climbed a huge mountain just to come to drop me off when there would probably have been another public building down in the valley. Even though I know that I'll never get to meet her or the family, there was a incredible sense of finality and of completion. The search is over, at least for now. I'm thankful that my birth mother did not have an abortion. I'm thankful that she did the only thing she could to keep me alive, since I had pneumonia and likely would have died at home. Was I the first child? Was I one of many? I can't imagine what feelings and hurt were inside her for letting me go, but I'm ever grateful that God would know and ensure that His sovereignty would reign over my life. Holt International began with two believers who dearly loved the Lord in Harry and Bertha Holt. God used those precious hearts to reach out to the orphans in Korea and to do a good work far beyond what any of us could have imagined. I'm thankful that my adopted family and my own adopted mother, who had the same type of heart to rescue a child that needed a home. If there's one perspective I've learned in this life, is that we are all sojourners. Like James reminds us in the Bible, this temporary life is but a vapor in the wind, here today and gone tomorrow. Sometimes we need to look beyond the busyness of life, and we just need to appreciate where we came from. I suppose we all have a story to tell. I want to thank you for taking this journey with me. I would like to think there are many more paths and twists and turns ahead. I suppose we all must continue to travel on.